Welcome to the 2007 Las Vegas Fibonacci Trader Workshop. I'm Mark Braun. I think some of you know me. Most of you. I think I've spoken to a lot of the people here before, and some of us work together every day. I'm going to be talking about my trading methodology starting tomorrow. Today we're going to be focusing on just program setup issues, answering any questions about how to use the program technically. We have Chris Lurie with us also. Chris is going to give us a full day of his methodology on Sunday. Chris has been an expert trader for quite some time. He's well known in the Forex field, and I'm looking forward to learning about his longer term approach to the Forex markets, because it's an important part of trading to be able to scale up in size and duration of the trades being held. And I think we're all looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Chris has a different approach to using the program than I do, so since we're going to be talking about program setup issues today, we'll both be interacting as questions come up about basically how to use the tools in the program. As with any charting package, there are a lot of options, a lot of ways to use it. No one can be a complete expert on every aspect of a well-rounded charting package. So we'll do the best that we can to help you in understanding what you want to do with the program. And of course, we'd like to thank Carlos and Linda for having us here and organizing this. Can I start by asking who here is new to the program? Okay.
So like less than 3 months, or like, how many less than 3 months? Okay. Less than 6 months? Okay. More than 6 months? More than 6 months? Okay. It helps because it's...
Yeah, it sounds like an auction. Okay, so who has not yet loaded charts in the program? Is there anyone here who's basically just started the program?
Yeah, I tried, but I goofed them up, so that's where I'm at. I've got some loaded, but I don't understand how I got them there. I followed your video.
Okay. All right, that's cool. We can start off with basic symbol setup, if you'd like, and see how to take it from I have nothing in the program to an active chart, an operational chart. Would that help at this point? Is there anyone else who'd like to see that as far as how to set up actually putting a symbol into the program?
It's probably a good exercise to start with the basics, because maybe some things, some shortcuts that maybe you've overlooked and so forth. So it's probably not a bad idea just to kind of sort of start from the beginning, and then it may inspire questions that you have as well. Yeah. Right.
By the way, is there anyone here who's using the SRV program and not the regular Fibonacci Trader? SRV is the Forex program. Yeah. Okay. That's cool. I think I'm going to start off talking about the standard program for a bit, because the symbol setup there is a little bit more complicated. There are more options. And then we can get into the SRV. Okay, how's that sound? So I'm going to sit down so I can play with my computer. And Dwayne, for example, which contract were you trying to set up?
All the E-minis.
All the E-minis? Okay. What I'm going to do is delete one of mine and start the setup from scratch. Let's say we wanted to work on, how about the Russell? Now, depending on the data feed that you use, that's one of the powers of the program, of course, is that you can use any number of data feeds with it. I usually use eSignal. And the reason I say usually is because I have 2 sets of charts running at home. I have my main charts are running in eSignal, backup charts are running with Interactive Brokers data. Because Interactive Brokers is one of my brokers and their data is free. It's not quite as reliable as eSignal data, but it serves to give you charts in case something were to happen to eSignal or the computer on it. There are some methodologies that will work perfectly well with IB data. My point, though, really is that the setup methodology is totally different. And we can go through that as well. Is there anyone here using IB data?
Yes, I would like to know how to use this as a backup. Yes.
Okay. Well, the way I use it as a backup is actually to run a second Fibonacci Trader on a different machine. To switch back and forth from one to the other can be a little bit complicated in midstream. But let's just use eSignal. I think most of us here are using eSignal for our futures data, right? Okay. So let's start out with setting up the Russell. And the easiest way, this is a point of confusion that a lot of people have with Fibonacci Trader. You can set it up as a symbol, like you would with a stock. Or you can set up what's called a futures group. The advantage of the futures group is that the program will load data from the next contracts out, and it makes the rollover process much easier. And the way you do that is you go up here to where it says File, Futures. Click on Futures here. Everyone see this window? New Futures Group. And you get this nice window. Okay. Dwayne, are you following along?
Yep.
Okay, great. Choose the exchange.
What exchange is it?
Well, the Russell is on the CME for the moment. It's asking if I want to use the default exchange times. I'll say yes for now, and I'll double check to make sure that it's setting up the way I want it to. Okay, description, that's really an optional, I mean, it's not important what you call it. It's something that you should recognize. It's basically just the name of the file. So I'm going to call this Mini Russell. Okay, now here's where it gets interesting. I think we all know the eSignal symbol for the Russell, right? It's AB. You would go to, if you're not familiar with eSignal, you would go to the eSignal site and look up the Russell, and they'll tell you it's AB. And notice what the program did. Actually, I don't like those laser pointers too much when there's wires on the floor. You see the question mark exclamation point? Okay, the program filled that in automatically, and what that means is that the program's going to go ahead and check for the future months, the future contracts where this is trading. If I were to just put in ABU7, for instance, that would be 2007 September Mini Russell. What I want the program to do is look at the eSignal server and find all of the trading contracts on the Russell. In other words, September of this year, December of this year, March of 2008, June of 2008. So they're all the data is being gathered for that. All the data is available for that. And when I want to roll the contract, I can just hit roll over, and it'll go to the next contract. It's a lot easier than trying to set up your charts from scratch every time there's a roll. What does it say? Do you want to use 24 hours? No. Let's check those trading times. The trading times have to be based on the local exchange time, 8:30 to 15:15. Okay, so it's 8:30 to 3:15 Chicago time. And all you have to do, if the program doesn't know already, in this case it does because the Russell is a popular contract, you put a check mark in the front months where it trades. Okay? So I always call that HMUS for the standard minis, because it's yeah.
Why don't you go to the gold?
I'm sorry?
Why don't you use the 24 hours?
I have the 24 hours set up already, but I'll show you how I have the 24 hours set up. It's a little bit different. And for my work, I need to have regular trading hour only charts also. For the Fibonacci based analysis, I don't use 24-hour charts. But we can get into that tomorrow. Okay, so this is all we need to check here. It's all set. I want to put this in the folder that says futures. That's just an organizational thing when you're looking to make charts. When you open up the list of available symbols to make a chart, you know that you're looking for a futures contract, so you look in the folder that says futures. You can leave all those set to none if you want, and there'll just be one long list of symbols. It's totally optional. But like I said, that's just to keep things neat. Let's just click OK here. And we should be set up. Okay, so are there any questions on that so far? Just the eSignal setup for a futures contract. No, everyone's cool on that? Okay, so let's close that out. And now I'm going to go to my chart list. And under futures, here, this is what we ended up with. You see?
I lost you there.
Okay, well, let me just go back here. Once you've created the symbol, and you want to create a chart, we're going to go to where it says chart, up here. See? Let me connect this so I can work two-handed. Okay, so you're going to go to chart, and click on that, and you'll have this nice list on the left-hand side.
I got a dialogue box, and I continued and went on.
Okay, what was the dialog box?
I already got rid of it. I don't have the same picture up you have up.
Okay.
Real-time, active, and end of day.
Alrighty, why don't, wait a second, maybe it looks like this. If it doesn't, I'll come back there and have a look at what you have going. Probably looks like this, except without these guys in here. You have real time,
Yes,
archive, and end of day, right?
yes.
And I have a dead battery. No, there it is. Okay. Double click where it says real time.
Got it.
Okay. Did you put that in the futures folder?
Yes.
Okay, so you should be able to open up that futures folder with the plus sign. And I have a lot of contracts in here. But you can see where my Russell ended up. And the point of doing it with that futures group is now we have Russell here, September 2007, and the next month's out, as I mentioned. So it makes it a lot easier to do the roll without having to re-enter the symbol each time. Select the symbol that we're interested in now, which is the front month, 0709. It's European style, so the year comes first. 0709 really means September 2007. Yes?
Doesn't it just roll over by itself automatically? I just run e-signal with the...
That's the continuous contract.
That's...
The continuous contract has its place, but there are some problems with it too. I use the continuous contract for my 24-hour data, and I will get into that. I'm glad you brought up that point. Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up.
I just don't understand.
Yeah, actually that's exactly what we're here for today, is just to interact and talk about whatever questions involving the program setup and involving why you might choose one data over the other.
It goes for certain things, and I just don't get it.
Right, no, I'm really glad that you mentioned that. Let's get to setting up a chart
Right, I understand.
at this point. Okay, so I'm going to select this contract, my front month on the Russell. Click on chart, right there. New chart. All right, now, everyone here knows that Fibonacci Trader allows you to create a chart with 3 time frames worth of data, right? Okay, is there anyone who's unclear on why or what that does or how to create a chart? Because we'll just step through it, but I want to make sure that we're addressing any specific questions. Okay. We have our Russell selected. I'm just going to do a time-based chart. So for a time-based chart, you don't need to select any of these options. If you wanted to do a range bar chart, tick chart, volume chart, or so on, you would select one of those. The default is a time-based chart. Let's do a 15-minute chart. Just going to put 15 here in the own period. So that is the data that will actually show up on your chart, on the bars. And if I hit tab, it's going to automatically choose GAN-based multipliers. In other words, 15 times 5 times 3 is basically the GAN methodology that Robert Krauss chose as the appropriate multipliers to determine trend. If you have a 15-minute set of data, you want to then look at the next level of data at 75 minutes and so on to determine whether or not you're trading along with a longer-term trend. You can change these numbers, though, if you have a reason why. For instance, I might be interested in seeing what the 45-minute data looks like. I might want to run an indicator in the background off of 45 minutes. Just showing you that you can change that, and I'm going to do it right now. And make that 15, 45, and 120. And click OK. Yes, Tom?
If you right-click on the chart, it brings up a pop-up, and it has volumetric bars.
Right.
Are the volumetric bars the same as the volume?
No, the volumetric bar is something that is specific to Fibonacci Trader. It's basically like an indicator that allows you to see price and volume information within the same bar. And I can show you some reference information as to where,
That's different from the volume bar.
Yeah, this volume bar is like what we use in the chat room. It's simply that, actually when I close this, I'll be able to show you what a volume, the difference.
Okay.
So click OK on this. And what you'll see is the chart forming in the background. Since I'm dealing with a brand new symbol, it's going to take a minute for it to actually gather all the data, and then here's your chart. Now, this is a point that confused me when I started using the program. This all stays open. The reason being that if you wanted to, let's say you wanted to create 3 or 4 charts pretty quickly, you can, instead of going through the menu process of reopening everything, reopening the chart creation, you can just do it again. I'll create a 3-minute chart now. Do you see what I'm saying? This way you didn't have to go and select, I want to create a chart and all that stuff. 15, let's say 45. Okay? Created the next chart. Now I'll close out our chart creation menu, and we have our charts. Any questions about that process? Dwayne, how'd that go for you?
Got it.
Great. Alrighty, what you're seeing now, what came up actually is an old default template that I had in this machine. My charts don't quite look like this anymore, but by the time we're done today, I'd like for you guys to be able to create your own templates with indicators. In other words, I didn't tell it that I wanted, just now I didn't tell it I wanted a chart with this kind of CCI and a 34 EMA. I had told it that a long time ago. And I told the program, whenever I open a new chart, use this as the default. So I wouldn't have to go and put these indicators on the chart every time. Now, yes, Jeff?
Up on the title bar there, it's got the current price of $837.90. And what's the number next to that on the right?
On the right?
710.
The number of trades per day. Changing
Number-
hands.
This isn't a volume chart. That actually should be, today's change. But that number does look strange. Let's see what the daily looks like. That's interesting. We didn't come down that far today. Wow. That's what happens coming to one of these workshops. You lose track of the market. Yeah, that should be, you know what, that must be ticks. That's 14 points is what we're seeing. It's reflecting it as ticks for some reason here.
Oh.
Yeah, usually I know on my main machine that would have said 14.7.
70.
Because how far down are we today?
I think pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what that is number of ticks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
147.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it came out that way. Maybe I have something set wrong in here. I doubt it. Let's see, decimal 2, tick size 1.
From the higher to the lower, which is from open.
It should be from the open, but it should be minus. It shouldn't be plus like that. So I must have some kind of multiplier set funny here. Decimal 2.1. I'm not sure why that would be. I'll have to look into that. Because that should be a negative number, like it is on the S&P. Good eye. Got me in trouble, Jeff. Okay, so that's the basic chart creation. And Don, what you were asking about the charts, this is one of the options that you can have on a chart. This is a volume chart. And is there anyone here who's not familiar with what a volume chart is? Okay. I use volume charts extensively in my intraday analysis, and what a volume chart does is instead of, this is a 3,000 volume chart, instead of advancing to another bar or candle, if you want to use candles, each time a certain time period passes, what this does is it closes the bar and starts printing the next one when 3,000 contracts have changed hands. The advantage in using a volume chart, particularly when you're using indicators, and look at that, looks like a 50-14 to me. The advantage is that your indicators react more rapidly when there's more interest in the market. When you're using an indicator on a time-based chart, the market could be totally flat. And when 3 minutes goes by or 15 minutes goes by, the indicator has to move anyway. An oscillator will gravitate back towards its zero line. So you can get readings, you can get triggers from your time-based charts that really have nothing to do with any interest in the market, with people who are actually trading. If there are more bars that are printing as the market declines, your indicators will give you short triggers more rapidly, because the actual interest in trading is driving the market downward. For instance, if I'm just to simplify this, if I'm counting on a cross below this moving average as a trigger to go short, well, if there were no trades happening on a volume chart, this bar is never going to finish printing. It's just going to stay filling in until there are actually 3,000 contracts trading hands. Then it will go to the next bar. When there's enough interest in moving the market downward, I'll get that cross. If this were a time-based chart, the 34 EMA would be sitting there. In, let's say, 15 minutes, it would advance to the next bar. The EMA would have to change its position. The EMA would be moving upwards towards price. I'd have that cross even if there were no trades. So that's why we use volume charts. Now, volumetric is something that I personally never got into. Let's try to create a volumetric chart, and I have looked at them. It's a different kind of thing. Oh, you mean in the, yeah, I'm sorry, I chose the wrong thing. Open options, it's in here, right? Volumetric.
It didn't toggle.
It didn't toggle? Okay, thanks. Whoops. Yeah, I hit defaults. Okay, this is a volumetric bar. And actually, I don't think it's the best idea to use it on a volume-based chart because the data is just going to be redundant. Okay, scaling is all right. Here, it's basically another way of slicing the same data. This is a 15-minute chart with what the program calls volumetric bars. And basically what it means is the more volume in each of those 15-minute bars, the fatter the bar is. Okay, so you have a way of visually actually seeing here. It's kind of like the flip side of the volume charts I use. This is saying, look at this. Every time I tried to rally, the bars are skinny. Every time it dropped, the bars get fat. What does it tell you? So it's another way of visualizing the same data. For my method of analysis, I prefer to have the bars actually print when there's more volume. It's just turning it the other way around. Yes, Leonard?
I was going to ask you, why, how do you know the type of model to use? Just what looks good in the chart?
Years of experience in playing with it and spreadsheeting it, and probably
Varies depending on what you're looking at.
yeah, and I would say 99 100ths of the things out there to trade, I have no idea because I haven't looked at it. The things that I've focused on trading, I've just worked on extensively in trying to balance it out. And actually we have the YM in our chat room. We change the numbers every day.
Right.
On the YM because we want to. We actually use the ES, the mini S&P as the gold standard. If the ES is trading at a certain volume, we go, okay, well the YM is trading at what percentage of that volume, and we adjust the YM, the mini Dow, the mini Dow.
Oh, use the mini Dow.
Yeah, the mini Dow. We've been adjusting the numbers, and because that's a work in progress. Trading is always a work in progress.
Right.
So that's the volumetric versus the volume. Okay. So, let's see, where can we go? Anything you'd like to add at this point?
No, the only thing with setting up your charts is you went by the contract and time, but you can also, if you like to look at your charts with an array of instruments, then you can also just simply click on the instruments, have them all in the same time frame. You just keep clicking on the instrument and then click OK. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, in other words, in the chart creation.
Yeah.
Here, you want to show?
No,
Or you want to do it on yours?
I'm not too familiar with this one, but
Okay, just the chart menu. Here.
yeah, chart. I'm a little lost on this one.
Yeah, that's good.
But,
Just hit
so-
hit chart.
So if you want a specific contract to be traded, let's see here.
Yeah, let's stick with, yeah, I know, it's not, we should switch over to yours at some point.
Yeah.
Be easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not familiar with these.
I don't trade any of the futures off this chart.
Because he's smart. Here, you want that.
Okay, so if you set up your time, if setting up your time frame here, let's say it's and you just want to trade if you want to view a range of contracts on the same workspace or the same page, then you just simply you would click OK, and then the window will remain, and then you just move to the next contract and click OK again, and it will just keep pulling up charts for the same time frame, and you just choose whatever ones you want on that time frame and set your workspace. Like for example, what I'll do is I'll have an array of currency pairs, maybe let's say 8 currency pairs, all in the same time frame. I'll have different pages, so I'll have time frame pages. I'll have one page that's all 60-minute charts for 8 or 10 currency pairs or more, and then all daily, all so forth. And it's quite simple. You just boom, it's a click of a button.
You know, that never even occurred to me to look into that, and that's very interesting. It's kind of like the opposite of what I was doing before. When I created the 15-minute Russell and the 3-minute Russell, I left it set on Russell, set up my time frames, hit OK, set up the other time frames and hit OK, because I don't have a page where I have everything at one time frame. I have the contract. So I have all the time frames in one contract. I'm used to thinking of that way. What Chris is saying is you can use the tools the other way around and set up the time frames you want and then just click each contract. In other words, click OK, then click the next contract that you want a 60-minute chart on, for example. I never knew that. Thank you.
The reason I do that is because, let's say, for example, I'm using a 60-minute, I have a 60-minute page up, and I've got 10 currency pairs on a 60-minute page. There are some where the price relationship is quite strong. So I'm watching to see, sometimes we may see the euro rallying, but the pound is delayed in time. So the volume hasn't moved into the pound yet. If you're trading, it's the same cost as the US dollar. So sometimes that definitely helps with entries in certain instances, right? So I like to watch one against the other.
Right.
That's very cool. Thank you. Yeah.
That's the same thing as watching the S&Ps and watching the Russell.
Right.
Yeah. This looks interesting, actually, the volumetric, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, we'll have to play with that. Okay, so now we have basic chart creation set up. If you don't have any default template, what you probably got, Dwayne, for example, is a blank chart that just has the price data on it, right? Yeah, that's fine. We can branch into adding indicators to the chart, set up pages. Any particular questions of interest that people have at this point? Anyone has? Yes, Leonard.
I'm always worried about my computer getting blown up.
Insurance.
I know, but insurance is. But anyway, I don't trust insurance companies. I trust myself.
Okay.
So I would like to, ask Carlos. There's different ways to get into the program to make sure that I save all that stuff in a separate area in case this thing goes defunct. Somebody steals my computer.
You mean to back up the data?
Well, not just the data. It's the data you can always get. You can always get that data anyway.
Right, to back up your work, like your templates, and there are 3 folders.
That you have to put aside.
There are 3 folders. I'll show you exactly what they are if you'd like.
And you want to take it and
Yeah, I'll show you.
download it on the hard disk and.
Yep.
Because you never know what's going to.
No, I do that all the time. You know what I use that for also? It's another example. The workspace that you're seeing right now, the page, is from my main computer. That's why the charts are not well organized at the moment as far as how they're laid out, because I have, monitors out here. I move these folders between the computers to keep things synchronized. And they're right here. You can take a look. Take a note of this if you'd like. And they're the same ones in SRV also. Here, the folder that says PARM is parameters, plans, and data. Those 3 folders. Back them up to an external hard drive or to another machine. Or the first one is data, capital letters, wherever you have your FTGT folder.
Okay.
Okay? You go in there, you find data, the data folder. PARM, P-A-R-M, and plans. Okay? And you take those, if they're small enough, usually they are. Mine are tremendous because I have so much stuff running. You can back them up to a CD. You can back them up to one of the little USB external thingies.
Right.
External hard drive, move them to another computer. One thing though, if you put them on media like a CD, this is an important, a lot of people get messed up with this. If you put them on a CD, they generally get burned to the CD as read-only. And when you move them back to another computer, you know, your brand new computer because the old one exploded, or the dog ate it, or whatever. And, when you move it to the other computer, make sure you check these folders in Properties. You right-click and go to Properties. Okay. Read-only should be unchecked. Mine is checked and grayed out because I have a couple of things that are specially locked. But you basically just want this. It would do no harm to uncheck it. Just uncheck read-only if it comes out that way when you copy it back. Okay, and it's the exact same thing like I said in SRV. See? Data, PARM, plans. If you move those to another computer, install the program first, move these folders in, you start the program, it's going to look like exactly where you left it. Okay? That's a very good question. I'm glad you brought that up.
There's also on the program, I see, like, I know Dennis at one time, we downloaded and got this as a template.
Yeah.
And then I add stuff to his. So I have go to systems and get my own type, and then I take mine and put it on top of his. And looking for easier ways how to do this.
Dennis, you mean Dennis's stuff? Yeah, well, his is not a system. His is a template. Yeah.
I can't change that.
Sure you can. You can add to it and then save it as a new template. Let's do that right now.
Okay.
Okay?
That sounds like a winner.
Yeah, and then we're going to get into basic adding indicators. Okay, so that we can.
Simple stuff that you're scared to do something because you're going to lose what you got.
Right. Well, you know what? If you're ever in doubt, what you can do is do that backup first.
Sometimes.
Do that backup first, and that way you don't have to worry about it. Okay. And of course, you know, I'm so hyper about keeping my levels up that I just noticed on this chart that I had to add some resistance. Anyway. Yeah, you're talking about Dennis's template. Let's get a chart where we can add that. One of the things in the program, this is Dennis's current stuff actually. One of the things in the program is that you can create templates, sets of indicators that you would add to a specific chart, a chart of your choosing, so you don't have to set up each chart separately each time. So let me just choose a chart where we can do this. I'll just use this Russell 3000. The template that Leonard mentioned is, just trying to remember if I have it installed here. Yeah, Dennis's, one of Dennis's templates. Okay, there we go. Just waiting for this to close on me. There we go. Now let's say you wanted to make a modification to this, and this is a little bit more ahead of, you know, there are a few people here who don't know how to add an indicator, so let's you know, make sure we cover this just because you brought it up and I don't want to forget either. Let's say I wanted to add to this, I don't know, a moving average. Or no, not this thing.
You can pick out the CCI.
Yeah, I'm just not sure why it's... Okay, well, let's take my chandelier stop that I use sometimes. Okay, so there's the chandelier stop. I just chose an indicator at random, okay? All you would do is go back to templates, save as new.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, save as new, and call it Dennis plus chandelier.
Right, yeah, right.
Okay, and that way you'll have
I was
it.
going to lose something.
Yeah,
You don't mess with something.
yeah, that'll make sure you. Speaking of losing something, again, for anyone who's new to the program, one thing that I had to get used to with this program is you don't have to save anything when you quit the program. The program, in other words, the program, if you just close it, you know, because your boss comes out of his office and you don't want him to know you're trading when you should be working on other stuff, it'll save exactly the way you left it.
which is a
Okay.
good thing.
It's a very good thing because I use some other packages, order entry packages and stuff where if you don't save, everything that you just did, everything that you set up is gone. This program saves everything exactly where you left it.
Or if your power goes.
Sorry?
Or if your power goes, if you lose power.
Well, if you lose power suddenly, you're probably not going to have your latest tick data saved. It's just going to have to backfill the data, but it should save the what you've set up on the charts. Okay. By the way, so Linda doesn't smack me. Did everyone get in their lunch order? Okay, because she told me that there's a cutoff on that. There's a menu in the front of the manual. I guess everyone did. Okay.
Do you remember what it was?
Mark, before you go on,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the right time to do it.
Sure.
Yesterday, range bars came up.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you can show us?
Yeah, that's on that on the chart setup. Let's make a Russell range bar chart. I'll just say new chart. Okay, here, range bar. Okay, so instead of choosing volume bar, you go range bar. I know a lot of people are using 1.2 for the Russell. Is a popular one. I think Trace is going to be talking about that. And a range bar. People familiar with range bars? Not familiar? Okay, let's just get one up so we can talk about it. Do you use range bars? Okay. Okay, this is a range bar chart. I haven't used them that much. I was playing with them for a while. I plan to look at them a little bit more. Range bars, again, we're dealing with the same data, the exact same data, slicing and dicing it in different ways. This is a 1.2 range bar chart. I didn't choose 1.2 because I'm really familiar with it. I chose it just because people have been talking about this being productive in the Russell. What this means is when the bar has a range of 1.2 points from high to low. In other words, if it could trade 1 million contracts, it could trade for a whole day. If it doesn't move out of a 1.2 bar range, it'll stay in that bar. As soon as it makes a high and a low, that's 1.2, and then one more tick outside of that. In other words, 1.3, it advances to the next bar. The idea here is instead of, I like to slice things by volume, when it trades a lot of contracts it should move to the next bar. The idea here is when it's moving faster, so it breaks a predetermined range, then it moves to the next bar. And again, the reason people experiment with these different ways of displaying the data is because of indicators. Because of indicators or combinations of indicators. In the theory here, the idea here is that you want your indicator to move faster when the market is moving faster, breaking a predetermined range, exceeding that predetermined range. So I've seen some systems set up on that basis. I think it's great stuff. It's a great basic tool to be able to use the range bars. I'm not an expert at them at this point, or see if we ever get to it. So that's a range bar. And one of the things about Fibonacci Trader, that I appreciate also is that you have so many different options in how you can slice and dice the same data. Yes.
There's always different ways that you can do this, and so you're slicing and dicing a couple of indexes or whatever you're doing.
Right.
And what the hell is that do to your computer? How much does that bog it down?
Well, the more charts you run, the more indicators you run, the faster you need, the faster machine you need. One thing you can do in this program is if you go, see up here, utilities, global settings, number of bars in memory. This is the default for how many bars would be on a chart. Make that as small as you can make it. Because let's say you have that set to 2,000 bars. Okay? Each chart is going to have 2,000 bars on it. This is where it gets key though, and addresses your question. Let's say that you have another bar print, and you have 3 indicators on the chart. The program has to look back over all 2,000 bars and recalculate the indicator. Even if the indicator is based only on 50 bars. It's still going to go back and try to confirm that everything is in place based on 2,000 bars worth of data. So if you're only using an indicator that relies on 50 bars worth of data, knock that down to 300 or so. It'll speed your machine up a lot.
How do you know what you're indicating?
Well, let's say I use the 50 CCI. 50 period CCI. How many bars do you need?
Okay,
Yeah.
I see that.
Right. Yeah, so that's a good way to keep your computer bog free. Okay. Oh, broke some res. Hey, I can't help it.
I thought the 50 CCI, I would use the 55. I was related to the...
The fib numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, is that true? I don't know. That don't make no damn difference.
If it calls to you, if that seems to work better for you, that's fine. No, a lot of people say that, and the thing is, I use the 50 because I'm used to it, and people show me 55, and I'm like, looks the same to me. So, you know, it's like the tick chart. So people will do a 233 tick chart or a 618 tick chart because they think it's better to use a fib number. Maybe it is. I don't know. If I saw my win rate go up by that much because I did it, I'll keep it, you know, whatever. Okay, I think we should, did you have something you wanted to mention? You're just looking? Yeah. You're such an expert too. I feel nervous being scrutinized.
No, not right. That was,
Okay, so we're going to talk about adding some indicators and creating a template. And I think, did Dwayne step out for a minute? Because I think he wanted to, yeah. Okay, do you want to take a little break, everyone? Should we take a few minutes break?
once every hour, actually?
Yeah. Oh, sure, Jeff.
When you make a change to local settings, does that stay?
Yes, it stays.
Default, you don't have to make it a default?
That is the default. The thing is, it doesn't adjust the charts you've already created. Okay, global settings affects future charts only.
All right.
Okay.
You have to recreate.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, if you look, that's a good question. If you look in the options, okay, chart open options, you'll see very similar setup here. Now, if I had this when I created this chart, if I had this bars in memory in the default in the general, if I had that set for 2000, this chart would stay at 2000 even though I changed it. Yeah. So yeah, I think a quick break so we can. Oh, worry, sure.
Yes, please. Is the program able to scan a group of stocks? That's not able to buy a group of securities.
Well, the way you do that would be to, you mean to scan for specific conditions?
Yes.
You would create a workspace, a page, with all the stocks that you wanted. Okay, so you'd basically create the charts for the stocks you wanted, and then you would create a system to scan for those criteria, and it would alert you when when a specific chart came up with those criteria. You don't have to have big charts, so you could create a whole bunch of charts and minimize them, but apply the system to that chart.
And that work on intraday too, like Russell's, E-minis, I mean,
Sure, but you have to create the system that you want to. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but there isn't a scan function like a portfolio, to look at, to have a whole bunch of things that aren't open, a whole bunch of securities in the background, and the systems area is not my area of expertise with this. I can't lead you through how to create a system. There's a lot of systems building tool material in the workbook that's that we had written that go into the details about that. But since my stuff can't be automated, basically, I've never bothered to learn about the system stuff. It just doesn't appeal to me because I could only go halfway on that. Okay, so did we vote for a break or not? How's everyone feel? Okay, keep going for a bit? Okay. Why don't we add an indicator to a chart? Okay, I'm going to see if I can create well, let me just erase some of this stuff, one of these charts. Since we have some folks here who need to get their stuff on their charts. Here's a blank chart. Now the reason I have this background gray is just because at one point in time, like I said, this is an old template, I found that more pleasing to my eye. And I still do. The reason I switched to the white background is because I deal with a lot of other traders, and a lot of them want to print out my charts, and they complained about ink cost. So, rather than explain to them about their printer drivers and how they can tell it not to print the background, I switched to white charts. It was easier. Let's just see. Dwayne, do you have a 3-minute chart up at the moment? 3-minute Russell chart?
No, 15, just a second. Yes.
Okay, great. I'm going to change this background color. Do you have something that looks like that?
No, I'm on channels with black background.
So you set the background. You're good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So basically, whatever you want to change, let's do that first. Whatever you want to change in the background of the chart, the type of bars or candles, right-click somewhere that's blank in the chart. This is one way. There's several ways to access this panel. I'll show you the way I generally do it. Go to a blank area in the chart, right-click, go down to Chart, and hit Open Options. Okay? Now, that's the way I do it. Why do I do it that way? Because I didn't know there was an easier way to do it.
There is?
Yeah, there is.
Right, yeah.
Chart Options icon.
Okay.
Okay, is right there. I was doing it the other way for so long that I still do it that way all the time, just because it's ingrained. And Carlos and I fight about this all the time because he goes, Mark, there's an easier way for you to do this. And I'm like, no, it's easier for me to do it the way I know how to do it. So Carlos was good enough to build in several ways of doing just about anything so that you can find the way that's most comfortable for you. All right, so what I just did was activate a dialog box that allows me to change some of the fundamental factors on the chart, some of the basic factors. I shouldn't say fundamental because you're here. So again, you can just hit this little icon up here. Hopefully I can get you away from my bad habits and show you really the faster way to do it. Click that and you get this nice chart options box up.
Which one did you click up above?
Up there. Yep.
Right there, next to the,
Is it on your...
next to the.
Does it have it on? Is it on there? Is the icon on there?
Good question. You got it?
You may not have the icon.
Yeah. Okay, so here's where you can change stuff like background color. Click this. You got all kinds of choices. If you don't like any of those choices, you got a lot of choices. Okay? As a matter of fact, I remember when a whole bunch of us started using this program and people were speaking in code about, oh no, try 322, 499, and I'm like, did that get you into the trade better? You know? Whatever you're comfortable with. Create the color you want, choose one. You're right, it opens up initially if you have nothing programmed with black. I find black personally to be kind of draining, to keep staring at that all the time. Just choose whatever you'd like. And hide live arrow. Anyone want to give a guess as to what that does? See the arrow? Yeah, this is a countdown. On a time-based chart, this will show you the number of seconds left in the bar. You see the arrow? That's the number of seconds left in, what is this, a 3-minute chart. So that should start at 180 each time. On a volume chart, it'll tell you the number of contracts left in the bar. Why is that important, depending on how you're trading? Well, it's important to me because I want to know that if I get a trigger, that it's not happening right at the beginning of a bar. I will take a trigger in the last third of the bar. So if I get a trigger on my 3000 volume chart, I want to see that number down to 1,000 or less.
It's particularly handy on the smaller time frames.
Yeah.
And also could save you having to look at the clock all the time to determine where you are on the clock, especially smaller time frames.
Right. But if you don't want it, if it's distracting, hide live arrow.
The idea is to make it as efficient as possible so your eyes aren't having to strain and move around on the chart more than necessary, because your eyes get strained enough, get sore, and then like this fatigue slowly starts to build up, and then you start, it starts to affect your decisions.
Yeah, and another thing also, the flip side of that is you have the options to shut things off because it shouldn't be distracting to you. If it's information, if your trading doesn't require something on the chart, you should be able to remove it.
I got the arrow but no countdown.
You got the arrow but no countdown. Okay. On a time-based chart, this 3-minute chart.
Yes, on the 3-minute chart.
Yeah, maybe it's pushed all the way to one side. Carlos, you want to take a look at that? And see if maybe it's,
Okay.
is that it? Okay, it was just pushed off to the side. Yeah, what must have, thank you, Carlos. It must have been, in case anyone's not familiar with what we're talking about, it must have been like this, just so that the arrow was showing, but not the time. I can't even reproduce that here. Okay. Another thing, notice that when I turn this background to white, I lost the prices and the time, because my old template was set up with that gray background. So I had the price and time stuff here set to white, so it would show up properly. I think I have another chart here. See? So when I made the background white, the numbers are actually still there, but they're fading into the background. This is something you have to be aware of whenever you change your color scheme on your charts, is that, I hear this from a lot of people. I changed my background color and now I lost my prices. Well, yeah, you lost your prices because they're both white now. So, you can't have everything. Can't have everything white because it'll fade away. Right-click in that price axis. Okay? And you can change the font color. Prices are back. Okay? So that fixes that kind of problem. Most of the problems that people have with the program are because there are so many options in the program. With other programs, I've heard people complain that they don't have those options. They never lose the ability to see their prices because they don't have the option to change their background color. So it's better, to my mind, it's better to get the chart exactly the way you want it and to understand why you might need to make other adjustments to compensate.
And try to consider what's most friendly to the eyes. So just because you change color, it may take some adjustment to get used to that color, maybe a couple days, or even just a day or a few days. But for me, it's a lot of it is about just eye friendliness, because in FX, if we're spending, sometimes if we have like a lot of positions running and so forth, you're sitting in front of that computer quite intensely for a long period of time. So you really want it to just be friendly to the eyes. Like for example, my fonts will be large, so it's very easy to reference and so forth. So you'll find that there's certain quirky little things. Like everybody in this room is going to have something different about just the layout of their charts, just because it's most friendly to the nature in which you trade and
yeah, there are a number of ways of doing that too. I mean, like Chris had mentioned, having a page layout with all the different things you're trading and the same time frame. In other words, all 60-minute charts. Let's say you were doing it the other way around and you had one security with 15, 60, and so on. You might want to have a slightly different background color for each time frame, because that way you'll know immediately without going, is this my 60-minute chart? Maybe you expanded the 60-minute chart because you wanted to see something in detail on it, so it's in a different place than it usually would be. Well, the background color will immediately tell you what it is. That's an option. Also, it's nice to have the variety of different colors rather than staring at the same thing constantly. You can do whatever you want with it, basically. Some of the other options, as you see, I was going to do that again. Right-click, chart, open options. But you can just do this. There are all kinds of options here. And we will set up some of these when we create a template also. But you guys should take a look if you're not familiar with the program to the point where you've gotten to this options screen. Most of the issues that you might have with a chart, the resolution is going to be here on this options screen. Okay? So right now we have this blank chart with time-based bars, and at least I got my time information and my price information back. Again, if you're new with the program, the green dot up here reassures you that you're looking at current data, because let's say you scrolled back to look at something, see a dot turn red? That's a warning that you're not looking at current information. Okay, couple of chart manipulation tricks that a lot of people don't know about. What I did to move these, this is a common one. Left click and drag back and forth to move the price bars. What a lot of people have not experimented with, though, is if you go down here to the time area and left click and drag, it changes the compression. Okay? Changes the compression, the amount of bars, the number of bars on the chart. Why is that there? Because I ragged on Carlos about it, because I wanted to be able to very easily and quickly find significant highs and lows to run the fib work. So left click and drag here changes the compression instead of just the time period
You
shown.
can use the symbol.
Yeah, you can use all kinds, I mean, there's other ways of doing this too.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's for vertical also. Moving the data vertically, okay, you can do that, left click it up and down. Or if you hold down the control key, left click and drag on your price information here, it changes the vertical compression. And the reason you might want to have that possible is, let's say you had a really long-term moving average or something that was printing up here, and you wanted to be able to see it at the same time as your current price information, you'd want to change the vertical compression. You see how that's flattening out? So you're able to see higher price at the same time. And yeah, Chris, you want to demonstrate what you were talking about, because I'm not very good at that.
These features are really important because I always like to know where I am in the bigger scheme of things. So, for example, I'll use this compression. You can either use the compression by scrolling on the bottom, or what I typically will use this one here. Just go to the top and then just either compress or decompress.
Right, yeah, I even forgot those are there because I'm so used to doing it the other way.
Yeah, I mean, it's just personal comfort.
Right.
And but because if you're looking at various time frames, because of the way I trade, I like to know where I'm at in the bigger scheme. Just a real quick reference, rather than having to scroll to a completely different time frame, it's a real quick reference to see where the major swings are that you're operating within.
Right.
As Mark mentioned.
That's a good point on that. I just got so used to doing it the other way. It's another example of how Carlos has arranged it so we have different ways of doing the same thing depending on what's easier. And Leonard, you had something?
You would be covering the fib lines.
Tomorrow. Yeah, if anyone wants to get into how to set up our tools so we don't have to do that over the weekend, if we have time later on, we'll do that. Today is really dedicated to basic program functions, so we can all make sure we're up to the same speed on that. Yeah, because in the past when we've done these workshops also, and we've jumped into the trading methodologies that we want to talk about, there have been points of confusion because someone's not familiar with program functions, so we want to just get that out of the way.
Is it a nice thing to have a certain parameter of having your chart look in the square box pretty much about the same amount of pixels or whatever you want, not pixels, but the same amount of
The same dimension?
bars. Yeah, because and then you can do that. You should have a certain. I don't know how you guys really.
You can set it.
And you usually be able to set it a certain thing and kind of keep all your charts like that, so you can just tell at a glance that something's going on, and then you kind of stretch it out and do
Right.
and bring it back.
Well, it all depends on the trading methodology you're using, too.
Is that
You can set up your template. You can set up your template like that so that it all has the same number of bars. Your view size is the same.
Is that what you guys pretty much do? So you know what to look at?
I don't. Yeah, I don't, because I'm always doing this all day long. I'm moving this around. Yeah, because what I need to do, I think probably Jeff, you can vouch for that. But I'm doing this all day long.
Absolutely.
Because because I have
I actually
to.
find that very fast. I do it. That's how I do it also.
Yeah, because I need to see what. From my methodology, I need to see. I mean, I can tell you right now just by looking at this. I mean, it's this low is significant. While you're trading in here, I don't need to see this low. I need to see this low when I was concerned about this decline. We'll go over why tomorrow. This failure swing. If I just had this like this as a default value, I wouldn't know that was a failure swing. I might think that was a significant high. Okay, so I need to be able to do this all the time and go, oh, wait a second. So if you have your trading methodology where you don't need to do that, that's great. Then have it set to a defined amount, predefined amount.
Isn't that why people have different charts running? 3-minute, 15, 60-minute, daily?
That's one reason, but
You all look at where you're at each one.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it
Well, you only
depends
have so
on,
much room.
yeah, so it depends on what price is doing. So if you're in a large consolidation, you'll need to either move, you have two choices. You can either move to a higher time frame, or you can just compress what you have.
Right.
Right. So just
Kind of get an idea what other people do, maybe.
yep, that's right. Yeah.
Sure.
Shares ideas. Yeah.
Don, you had something.
I was just going to comment, since we use so many charts for, like for the Russell,
Mhm.
I use the hide numbers, right click on the column and the right number, and I have 5 charts, I just have the price going on one of the charts instead of all 5, saves quite a bit of real estate.
Oh, sure. Okay, that's a good point too. So you're saying you basically cut off the price axis. Okay, that's a good tip too. Sure. Any other questions at the moment? Yes, Wari.
Does anyone have a solution? When I have a sub-chart,
Mm-hmm.
for example, and I want the average true rate
Mm-hmm.
as a sub-chart, many times you cannot read what the value is. I need that value, of course, that value is what I use in setting my stop. For example, I have a case here now
Okay.
where I cannot read the value of the average true rate. You cannot move the sub-chart.
What time frame? Daily chart or?
No, I'm here on a 30-minute chart. Take a look at
Yeah. Well, to get the exact value based on that bar, what's your period? What's your period?
I'm on a 30-minute chart.
But what's the period of
The ATR.
5.
5? Okay. So you can just go to the dollar sign. If you go to the dollar sign,
For the values?
you see the values.
Where is that
And
again?
then you click on the bar. It'll give you the values of the last 5. The last 5 bars. Dollar sign's like right in the middle there.
What was going on with it? Oh, wait a second.
Thank you.
Where is it? Here, you do it. Oh, there it is. There it is. I was thinking yellow. Yeah, the values would do. Yeah.
What you'll see is a list of the values. Have you guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And then you take the cursor and you click on the candle. It'll show you the value of that and the previous.
Okay, and you know why I didn't know that? Because let me show you something. Again, it's kind of funny. What I usually do for that is I go right-click, chart, show values. Same thing. Yeah, and I use that a lot actually because I'll have several indicators running. And like, let's say I have from different time frames, I have my CCI running, and I want to see all in one window what the value is on the CCI on each of the time frames. So yeah, that's an important thing.
Is that value for the most recent bar?
If you don't use the crosshair, it'll be for the most recent bar, but you can also scale back. It's a good way of finding out on the trade we missed because we went to lunch, where was the trigger actually.
You can click on the if you click on the bar.
If you want to know
Yeah. You just go to whatever bar or candle, you click on it, and it'll show the value for that up to that time.
But you need to use the crosshair to do that.
No, you just click. You just
Oh, really?
put your cursor onto the bar or candle,
I thought,
and it will give you
well, no, you,
right on it. See what changes?
oh, I've never done that.
I didn't know that.
No, I've never done that. I've always, yeah, that's interesting.
I mean,
Thank you.
I do, for me, it's easy with candles because I use candles.
Yeah.
It's wider, you know. This
Right.
is a little tough.
Yeah, I generally switch to the cross because I didn't know you could do it that way. I switched to the crosshair
So do I.
and do this, yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, so crosshair and then which is I don't.
Yeah, I like candles a lot too. I just don't use them as much because I'm doing so much fib work all the time that by avoiding the fatter bars, I get more highs and lows on the chart at once. So it's just a little easier for me that way. Often the charts where I don't need to do the fib work, I will use candles. And the charts where, because I mean, you know, look at how this chart, for instance, we were playing with. If this were candles, I'd have half the number of bars here. I'd miss this high, I'd miss this low, you know, for example. And okay, so any other questions at the moment? Yes, Jeff.
I've got, in wherever you want to work it in,
Sure.
things that I want to, one is price alarms, how to set price alarms.
Okay.
So I started with that. And then also in the bottom right-hand corner of the chart, I know the TF is time frames, that's how you switch time, but the other two, the L and the SY.
That's to enter a new symbol on the chart. SY.
Oh.
Okay, that's the same as hitting F5. Same as hitting F5. Yeah.
Just
Okay.
a quick access.
And this one's the link, isn't? Oh no, that's the live. The L is an interesting little function that I haven't really used. The L is so that let's say you had an indicator that generally only gives you a reading when the bar closes. If you hit L, it assumes that the bar has closed already and shows you